Yo, what's good, everybody? I want to thank you for tuning in to another The Shy Review. This is season 6, episode 7, entitled Long Live. If this is your first time coming to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning family member, then you already know what it is. Be sure to comment, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff if you choose to. If not, just sit back, relax, and we're going to get right into this thing. Now, I want to apologize for missing the last 2 weeks of The Shy. I do not have a great justification. I just been missing in action, but I'm back, and thank you for your patience and thank you for your kindness. So this scene, y'all, or this episode, why did I watch this at work? Just why? It was probably one of the worst things to do. The opening scene had my eyes full of tears. We see Papa at his father's church. He's crying, he's alone, and then we cut to the scene with Bakari at the chop shop. Ahmad Ferguson, who plays Bakari, is an amazing actor, and he acted his entire ass off in this episode. I'm talking about this young man. I've seen him act in other things before, and I've seen his portrayal of Bakari up until this point. But this particular episode, that young man, that little boy did something to me emotionally. Like, I was like, this young man is really, really good. Like, it really did make me look at him a lot differently as far as his talent is concerned. When he pulled that gun on Nuck, you could hear the pain in his voice, the pain in his cries, his sobbing. Like, it was riveting. I don't even know how to explain it. In addition to his desire to want to take Nuck out, mixed with his desire to live, because he knew what his fate would be if he decided to pull that trigger. And that little pipsqueak, I can't even think of his name right now. The new kid on the block, the boy that be with Nuck and Duda now, I can't stand him. I cannot stand him. He is too eager to kill for me. He is too eager to kill. But Bakari let Nuck know that I've killed before and it wouldn't be a thing to do it again. And I was like, baby, I understand that. But you in a lose-lose situation here. Because you got the gun pointed at Nuck. Little pipsqueak got the gun pointed at you. If it go down, it's going to be two bodies. And unfortunately, you're going to be one of them. So I'm glad that Bakari made the right decision and just left. Because that's exactly what he needed to do. And Nuck told him that if he ever put a gun on him again, that he would not be able to tell the story. And we all know what that means. But before Bakari leaves, as he still has the gun to Nuck, he tells him that he thought that family was off limits because Pastor Jackson, was like a father to him. And he's told that we're your family. And Nuck made it be known that the reason why he was killed was because he was talking too much. And I say, it's sad. I mean, I know this is a TV show, we know that, but it depicts reality. And it's sad that when you have someone in the community who's trying to make a difference, who's trying to be the voice of reason, that's trying to cause people to look at life a different way, how their life could be taken if it's challenging the agenda for evil. I said, it's crazy times we live in. I know this is nothing new, but it is really sad when you just sit and think about it. Jake and Kevin go to the church to support and be there for Papa. And Papa was very emotional, still crying, and they asked him if he wanted to be alone, and he said yes. And I was glad that they, I'll get to it further in the episode, further in the review, but sometimes you just don't know what to do when someone is grieving. You don't know sometimes how you're supposed to show up, and sometimes how you show up is just showing up, and they may ask you to leave, and then you just do that. So they gave him his space, and they just let him know that they love him and that they would be there for him, which I think in that moment is really all they could do, and it was all that Papa needed, because they can't do anything to take away or alleviate any of his pain right now. Lord, then we get to Keisha and Emmett. I know a lot of people are coming for Keisha, but I understand, sis. Okay, I understand where she's coming from. It's not just herself and Emmett that she has to think about, because at any given time, there can be innocent children at that house. There's already dirty money present, and it's only gonna elevate to more criminality. First it starts off with money, then guns, then drugs, then whatever else. So I understood, you know what I'm saying, where she was coming from. And it's quite clear to me why she would want to remove herself from that environment. It just is. And so EJ overhears them, and he's just curious, he sounds sad. He's listening. You hear people arguing, you're a child, you don't know what's going on. And so he did ask, he was like, what's going on? And he was like, Keisha, where are you going? Because he could tell she was, packing her stuff. And Emmett tells him, like, nothing is going on, but, go upstairs and check on your brother. And I said, Lord Jesus, that baby knows something up. And I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he go back and tell his mama. You know how kids do. Mama, I was at Daddy's house, and Daddy and Keisha was arguing. And y'all know how it go. It ain't nothing new. So then Keisha, I said, girl, what? Anyway, Keisha tells Emmett that she's going to be in the guest room until he figures everything out. I said, girl, what's that gonna do? What was that gonna do? But Emmett was like, bet, I'll take it. And at this point, Emmett would have taken anything because he doesn't want to lose Keisha. Obviously he doesn't want to lose her. So he would rather have her in the guest room than not be in the house at all. And another thing that gets me about Emmett with this whole Duda situation, he is so quick to tell Keisha that he's not going to allow anything to happen to her or their kids. And I'm like, you can't make that promise. That is a statement, my brother, that you cannot stand on. And it really interests me because I'm like, Duda has put a bullet to Emmett's head, basically letting him know what he would do to him. And for some reason, to me, it seems like Emmett hasn't quite fully comprehended the severity of this situation. Like, it's almost like you are a walking, I don't want to say walking death, but at any given moment, Duda can do something to completely alter your entire world as you know it. And you just acting like you have all the time in the world. Like, I don't trust Duda. Duda just one of them, he just a grimy ass individual. And the fact that Emmett is just so deep enthralled in the criminality of Duda's business, I'm like, bro, what? I don't see how you gonna get out of this, Emmett. But we'll talk about that more as we get into this review. So then we see Jake and Victor at the kitchen table, and they're having a conversation. And Jake is more street smart than Victor may want to accept or acknowledge, because the info that he was so desperately trying to hide from Jake was fully aware. So much so that Jake was finishing his sentences. And I'm like, do you have any idea what your brother was exposed to before you became a prominent presence in his life? You forgot your other brother who died? You forgot what Jake was raised in? Did you forget? You obviously had to think that Jake is oblivious to the things that are going on. And that was just a quick scene with them, and Jake let him know that he could be trusted. And he would not say anything to anybody about Victor's involvement with Q's death. And, Jake's whole thing was, we need you. You shouldn't say anything, because there is no way that you can help the community behind a prison cell. So don't say nothing. And I was like, you know what? I agree with him. Keep your mouth shut, Victor. You want to make a difference? You really want to help your community? I'm going to need you to be on mute. You ain't seen nothing. Like Roz told you, you ain't seen nothing, and you don't know nothing. And you better just stand on them principles, bruh. So Keisha goes to see Nuck. I don't know how I feel about this quite yet. I don't know. Even though I understand Keisha's understanding that Nuck has a soft spot for her, and she's playing on that. She's definitely playing on that. So she wants Nuck to promise her that nothing is going to happen to her family, and he lets her know that he can't make that type of promise, but he would never let anything happen to her. And she was like, Nuck, you already have. And we all know from previous episodes that Nuck carries a large amount of guilt for what happened to Keisha and her being kidnapped. And, that's something that weighs on his conscience. So I think that just out of sheer guilt, not to mention, I think he still got feelings for her or whatever, but out of sheer guilt, whatever he can do to make life easier for her, I believe he's going to do that. And so, like, she, put her hand on his hand. I said, why you touching him? Why you touching him, sis? I said, Keisha, now I think your heart is in the right place with what you're doing because you do want to protect your family and Emmett. However, sis, you know the situation with you and Nug and what once existed there. I'm gonna need you to stop because you playing with fire. You kind of flickering. You're flickering, sis. I'm gonna need you to pull back and walk the hell about this little cigar bar because you're doing too much. Even though I understand where you're coming from, sis, but I think you was doing a little too much touching in my personal opinion. So then we see Kenya and Papa, and everyone handles grief differently. And trying to be there for someone who's grieving can be extremely challenging because you don't know what to do. You don't know what to say at times. You don't know their cap of how much they can actually take at the moment. So you're just, you almost trying to just feel your way. Should I say this? Should I do this? Should I touch him? Should I leave him alone? Should I give him a hug? You honestly don't know what to do at times. And so, me personally, I believe that Kenya was asking the appropriate questions, and Papa was very short with her. He was giving her like one word responses, and he was very like attitudinal, what I'm saying, with her, very snappy. And I have no issue with what she said to Papa, which was like, I understand that you're grieving, but just because you feel like shit, don't make me feel that way. Period. I felt she said nothing wrong because sometimes even through the grieving process, that is not a justification to treat people a certain way, even though you are going through what you're going through. Because the process of grief, you don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know how many months or years you can actually be in that process. And his stuff is very fresh. So that's not out of my mind. What happened to his father is very fresh in Papa's mind and Papa's heart. Papa tells her that his last conversation with his father was about her and how his dad felt that he wasn't ready to handle such responsibility because we all know that Kenya has a son. And he was like, and, now that I see that he was right. And you could tell that she was extremely hurt. And I don't think Papa feels that way. I think because he's hurting that he wanted to hurt her. And you could just see the look on her face. It was devastating. And she just walked away, which was the best thing to do before she said something that she couldn't take back. Because I was like, dang, Papa, for real? Poor Kenya. Poor Kenya. I said, Lord, she young. She 19 years old. Her son look like he, he ain't no baby. So obviously she had him when she was young. And just the thought of, finally finding someone who genuinely liked her, where her being a young mother wasn't a problem. And then to be told that after she probably let her guard down with Papa. I was just like, Lord, why? But, maybe they can get it right a little later on. But like I said, she did the right thing by walking out. Now, Keisha is in therapy, still in therapy. And this is such a powerful storyline. And I believe that this particular episode was so amazingly written for Keisha and her mother. And I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time with this because y'all know how to Shy review. They could be long as hell, but I found a way to kind of make it not. So because I want to spend time on this. And, Keisha's in therapy, and the therapist said something that was so illuminating. And she told Keisha that, more than likely her mother was her first heartbreak. Burgundy, who plays Keisha, acted her ass off in this episode. She was dropping them tears at the drop of a hat. I've always thought that Burgundy was a great actress, but this episode here, it was very emotional. It pulled at the heartstrings. She did a marvelous job. And so I was like, wow, I was like, that was a powerful statement, you know. And I think one thing with Keisha, and she's talking about Emmett when she first sits down with the therapist. And I think one thing that people tend to forget is that for a long time, Keisha's ability to make her own decisions, to do things on her own, was taken away from her. When she was kidnapped, everything was on that pervert's time. When he would assault her, when she could eat, when she could do, it was on someone else's time clock. And now that she is living a life that she wants to live, she wants to be involved. And I think trust is so huge, you know what I'm saying, with her, because at one time, none of that stuff existed in her world. The fact that she was literally a captive, you know what I'm saying, she was being held hostage by this perverted ass man. And so I think that's an underlying issue as well when it comes to Emmett keeping things from her, not being honest, and her not deeming him trustworthy with some of the decisions that he's making. But the thing with her mom, the therapist wanted Keisha to bring Nina to one of their sessions. And Keisha really wasn't here for it. She wanted to make it about her and her healing. But I was so grateful that we did have a scene with Nina and, I was about to say Burgundy, with Nina and Keisha at the therapy session. And we find, now I have been one to say that Nina is a very interesting mother, okay? Not saying she the worst of the worst, but I'm not saying she the best of the best. But I was like, I've always wondered about her because she just always seemed out of it, my personal opinion. And so we find out that Nina wanted to explore her sexuality. She wanted to travel. She wanted to do certain things that she really was not privy to do. And the reason why she wasn't privy to those things, because she got married. She got married to a man and she had kids, and Nina really didn't even want children. But she did what she felt she needed to do to be the good girl, to make her mom happy. So she did that. That's a lot of people's story. A lot of people do that. And it also, to me, highlighted the importance and the powerful meaning of miscommunication. Because when she stated that she didn't want children, you know, Keisha was crying because she didn't know how to process the fact that her mother didn't want her. And Nina was like, that's not what I said. Like, I love my kids. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I didn't want you. I didn't want to have children. But when I had children, I loved my kids and I did the best that I could for them. And I thought that this was a good segue because as we grow, and I'm just using this, like just being, transparent. Me and my mom have awesome conversations. We don't always agree on everything, but we're very transparent, honest, and truthful. And I'm thankful for my mother. I would not have wanted to be raised by any other person. And for me, for the past, I'm going to say 10 years minimum, I see my mother as a person first, mother second. And I'm the oldest. So before I was born, she was an individual with dreams, aspirations, goals, emotions, feelings, all that stuff. Then when I came, she became a mother, still an individual with emotions and dreams and aspirations and all that stuff like that. And becoming a mother doesn't change how you feel or what you want, but the priority of those things may change. And I think a lot of times as we grow and get older, we look back on our childhood and deem that our parents weren't the best. They could have done this. They could have done that. And as we have children and we resort to different types of parenting, whether you do gentle parenting, traditional parenting, parenting your way, parenting that doesn't quite have a name stamped on it or a title stamped on it, you raise your kids how you see fit and what you think is the best way. And I guarantee, regardless of what you do, when your kids get older, they're going to feel that you could have done something better. You could have done something more. That's just, to me, that's just the humanistic mindset that we feel that certain things could have been done differently. And now with our generation, mental health is a huge thing. Mental health or mental stability or mental wellness wasn't a thing when my mom was coming up. It just wasn't that. But now that we're taking inventory on our mental state, we're seeing things a little bit differently now. And then a lot of times I feel with this groundbreaking thing with Black people going to therapy, we tend to blame our parents for a lot of things without really recognizing that they are people who are flawed, who make wrong decisions at times, who did not say the right things at times, who will not do and will not ever do everything right. And I think, to me, that's the beauty of it, because you live, you learn, you heal through, you process, and pray that you do a better job with your children. And just know that how perfect you think you may be doing, your kids are not going to view it that way. And so I just love that moment, because Keisha asked her, like, what does this mean to the therapist after finding this information out about her mother? And, the therapist told her that, like, there is no answer. This is how you heal through things. And I thought that was so good, because a lot of times we think things are always black and white. And in reality, they are not always that way. So I really love that scene. I really do. And I pray that Nina continues to go to therapy, because baby girl was definitely a product of her parents and her upbringing, that she felt she had to marry a man and do the right thing in order to be considered good in her parents' eyes. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of us have dealt with that at some point in our lives. But I'm going to just let that chill. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk, and I'm going to move right along. So Maisha and Gemma. Maisha, they at the studio. Gemma showed up 20 minutes late to this studio session, okay? And Maisha, like, where were you? She was like, I'm sorry that I'm late. Where were you? I got tickled when she kept hitting the engineer, like, to hit the little thing so she could, hear Maisha in the booth. And she was like, I had a meeting that ran through. Who were you with? Why? I was with Bakari's sister. So basically, to sum this up, Gemma is taking Tiara's advice on expanding her roster. Maisha ain't feeling that, because she feels that her and Brittany are on the same level. And Maisha tells Gemma, you ain't did shit with me, so how you gonna add somebody else? I said, now, wait a minute, sis. Gemma don't write music. You do. Gemma is your manager. Her responsibility is to get you notoriety, to put eyes on you, to get you in certain avenues that your songs can be heard. But she can't do nothing if you only wrote one song, sis. Honestly, and I know some people not gonna agree with this, but that's okay. If I was Gemma, who I'm meeting with is none of your concern. As long as I'm fitting the financial responsibilities for your career, you don't have the right to ask me or dictate who I work with or not. And that would have been the end of that conversation. Now, I ain't gonna lie. When Maisha started rapping, I said, that's what I'm talking about, sis. Maisha was in her bag. Do you hear me? Maisha was in her bag. I said, maybe you need to come to the studio pissed off more often. Then you could produce a record that the streets gonna love. I said, girl. But yeah, that was a little cute little scene with them. I said, Lord have mercy. These two little girls here. So Shad and Deja are were watching a movie. They were both asleep on the couch. Rashad is awakened by somebody, like, in their kitchen. You could tell somebody was breaking in. So remember, Shad hid those guns in the vent. He gets the guns out or whatever. The people run off. Deja wakes up. She's having a conniption when she sees these guns in her house. And I don't blame her. I really don't. I don't blame her. And so she was telling Shad, these need to get out of my house. They need to go, or you gonna go. But you got to get these out my house. And he was like, okay, I get them out first thing in the morning. She said, no, tonight. They need to be out my house tonight. And these wasn't no regular handguns, people. We talk about machine gun. We talking about heavy artillery. I said, Lord, the sneakage of it all. Just the sneakage of it all. So I was really trying to understand, put myself in Deja's shoes. Because I believe that Deja truly loves Rashad. And that's just a lot. That's just a lot, because she asked him, like, are you hiding anything else from me? Like, do you need to tell me anything else? And he says no. I said, now, when he said no, I said, that let me know this thing with his little situation with Tierra is gonna come out. And that may be the thing that break the camel's back when it comes to Deja being with him. I don't want to see it happen, but I got a feeling that's what's going to happen. Emmett goes to talk to Duda, but he's in a meeting. So Duck tells him that he's already talked to Keisha and she took care of it. And he was like, oh, she didn't tell you? And Emmett was like, nah. I said, Nuck, you missing. Now, I said, I think there was some underlying, you're like, yeah, she didn't say nothing. This situation here with Nuck, Keisha, and Emmett, it's going to be a mess, y'all. It's going to be a hot ass mess. I already see it. But Emmett had that look on his face like, damn, really? Because I think that in some ways, even though he knows that Keisha loves him, I'm not saying that he's jealous of Nuck because I don't believe he is, but I believe that Nuck is somebody that he's a little cautious about when it comes to Keisha interacting with him. And to be honest, I don't blame Emmett. Victor goes to see the mother of the house. He talks to her about Fatima. He lets her know that he wants to start a family with Fatima and he wants to marry her. He also is very transparent by letting them know that he has a criminal, past. But the other young lady was like, we all have a past. And I just think that, he did the right thing. He wants to start building on his future with Fatima. And he knew that talking to the mother of the house was important to her. So that's what he did. And it was a very, very short scene. But I'm like, Victor is really serious about, Fatima to do all of this. So we going to see what happened with that. So Kevin is packing up. I said, damn, this thing is really real. Kevin is packing up to go to Cali, and Emmett is there with him. And they have a cute moment, and it was just really just touching seeing them be honest and vulnerable with one another. And, Kevin just let him know that, he'll always be his big bro. And Emmett let him know you'll always be little bro. They gave each other a hug. It was very emotional. This scene was so damn heavy emotionally. I loved it. I absolutely adored it, but it was a lot. I'm like, y'all just trying to make me cry on every damn scene, huh? Just about. It was very, very touchy, but The Chi to me is such a well-written show. They get it right to me every time. Now these, Jake and Gemma had me rolling. So Gemma it looks like she was retwisting Jake's hair, and Jake was like, basically they're listening to Britney's mixtape. And Jake tells her, this is like every other thing I've heard, like ain't no different. If I were you, I would just stick to Maisha. Now, part of me feels like Jake only said that because he, can sense that Britney want his girl and he don't want that to happen. Because he tells Gemma, like, you just make sure that business is all she want. Kisses her on the cheek and then walks out. I said, Jake, you ain't romantic at all. You are not romantic at all, but I get it, bro. You feel a little threatened, okay? Because Britney was definitely flirting with Gemma. Told her, I think you're beautiful. I said, oh, baby, you better watch your girl because Britney got that swag and Britney looked like she could take your chick. I'm just saying. So let me get this out the way. And this just made me mad because Shad goes to Bakari and tells him they're outside the church. Shad gives Bakari the bag of guns. He was like, I can't hide this no more. That preacher, and don't take it to the preacher house. That man will be turning over in his grave if he knew you brought that stuff to his house. So what does Bakari do? Bakari goes to Nina's house, sneaks into Nay's window, asks her to hold something, but doesn't tell her what's in the bag, the contents of the bag. I said, girl, what did your brother tell you? This is how it starts. This is how women go to jail for dudes. I was about to say the N-word. This is how women go to jail for dudes, holding stuff for them, and they get caught up in their mess. And I expected more of Lene. I really didn't think she was going to tell him, yeah, but she did. I said, girl, no, you on your way to college. I got a bad feeling about this, y'all. I got a bad feeling. And as much as Bakari has grown on me, and as much as I do like him, Bakari is jacking up a lot of people's lives, okay? I know he comes off as nice, and I know he's trying to change his life and everything like that. But too many people are getting caught in the crossfire of his horrible decision making. And I got a feeling Lene is about to mess up her life dealing with this little dude here. I don't want to see it, but I think we gonna see it. So Duda and Nuck are playing chess, and I thought this scene was very foreshadowing and very telling. So they're playing chess with the little peep squeak sitting next to them. And chess is a very telling game about how people move and how people view their pieces on the chess table. And it's interesting that Duda was like, I can already tell your weakness. Because Nuck felt you're supposed to protect your queen. Duda tells him you're supposed to use your queen to your advantage. And you don't let the pawns always do your dirty work for you. He said, I can already tell what your weakness is. And of course, Nuck's weakness is a woman. The queen. And more specifically, Keisha. I said, this ain't good. This is not good at all. I got a feeling that everything is not going to be all right. Because Duda knows where his weakness is. And Duda knows how to get to him. And I don't think that Duda would stop at doing something to Keisha because he knows that's the way he can get at Nuck. I'm going to just put that little nugget out there. Don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to leave that there. Victor let Fatima know that he wants to get married and start a family with her. And you could tell it's something that he really wants to do. Fatima was telling him that she didn't think this could happen to her. But now that it's here, I think she got cold feet. She seemed like, let's just see how things go. I said, oh, hell. Oh, hell. I don't know how this is going to go because sis just did not, and she could have been in a state of shock because things were happening so fast. But we're going to see what happened with that. I was like, baby, don't do what Imani did and leave that man at a drop of a hat and leaving him clueless. Don't do that, Fatima. Because like I said, I think she's shocked. I think she got cold feet. I just don't know if she's ready for what Victor wants and she's just not being honest and telling him. Now to close this review out, I'm going to just put everything together with this funeral scene in this repast. First of all, Emmett confronts Keisha about talking to Nuck and tells her that if she do it again, it's over with them. I said, Emmett, if you don't shut the hell up, you ain't finna leave this girl. It ain't finna be because she went and talked to Nuck. Stop it. And why are you doing this at Pastor Jackson's funeral? Of all, I said, you know what? I'm not finna do this with y'all today. So in addition to that, thankfully, Kenya showed up to the funeral to pay her respect. You know what I'm saying? And still, show some support for Papa, even though he talked to her like he ain't had no sense. Then Duda's ass comes to this man's funeral. This scene was very reminiscent of the 5 Heartbeats when Big Red walked his happy, ignorant, gutter ass down that aisle with that almost half dead flower rose in his hand and gonna tell Eleanor he's sorry. And if it's anything he could do for her, she slapped the hell out of him. Had all the audacity to come to that man's funeral knowing that he was the one responsible for his death. That's the 5 Heartbeats. Duda had the audacity, the unmitigated gall to walk his happy ass in that church knowing he's the reason for that man's death. And Pastor Jackson's wife called him out on it. Ma'am, I don't know what you heard, but I didn't kill your husband. Yeah, she was like, yeah, you might not have, but your minions did. I'm like, how dare you? Oh, the blatant disrespect. So he ends up walking out, and it looked like maybe Nuck had a change of heart, or maybe it was just hitting him like the reality of what they actually did, because the look on his face, like he turned and looked back before he walked out. And then Papa goes to speak, and of course he breaks down, and Kevin and Jake go up to, be there for him, to support him, stand behind him. And I'm just looking at this thing like, this is so sad. This is incredibly sad. And like I said, I watched this at work. I don't know why I did that. It was so sad. And I'm just like, I can't put myself in that situation, but I would think as a son, your father is the person you want to impress. Your father is the one that you want to make proud. And now that he's gone, it's kind of like, what do you do? How do you maneuver? Papa is just about to walk into the beginning stages of his manhood. And the most important person to teach and guide is no longer there. And my heart just broke for him. My heart just broke for him. And that's how the episode ended. And y'all, I was an emotional damn wreck at these people job after watching this episode. I really was. But this episode was so good. It was so good. But again, like I said, sorry for the last 2 weeks. But I appreciate you guys for listening. If you made it all the way through, I appreciate you to the fullest. Until next time, y'all be safe out there, and I will holler at y'all later.